we can distinguish between two main forms of these sort of experiences that we're talking about. On the one hand, we have what Stan and Christina called the spiritual emergence. Yeah, so the word to emerge, emergence, has to do with something that appears, something that comes to the surface, something that sprouts, manifests, germinates to be born, that arises. Yeah, but in a way, it has this implied idea of something that is progressive, that follows a certain predictable rhythm or pace. On the other hand, we have an emergency. An emergency has the connotation of a sudden crisis, something that happens right in a moment. You're not expecting that, and all of a sudden, there's a sudden change that makes a situation completely become critical or life-threatening. Yeah, so an accident, any sort of event that happens in a moment that it's unpredictable, that it will have such dramatic consequences. So when talking about spiritual emergence, this is the definition by Stan and Christina above. They say that spiritual emergence can be defined as the movement of an individual towards a broader way of being that involves emotional improvement and psychosomatic health, a greater freedom of personal choice, a sense of deep connection with other people, nature, and the cosmos. So that sounds like a positive thing. There's an emergence of this spiritual force, and somehow it's leading us towards a better place, and better connection, better health, better emotions. And Christina and Stan say that this is an innate characteristic of human beings. We all have the capacity to have this spiritual emergence. And to be considered an emergence, that is something that is usually subtle and gradual. We don't really suffer much from that. It's something that we can handle, we can hold, we can deal with it. We can witness as it is happening. So it happens progressively. It's not a sudden change. I guess that most of us that we are here, we can relate to this. If we look back in our lives, we can probably see how our lives have been changing progressively, and that was something underneath driving that change. Something was emerging. Sometimes at first we don't know what's going on. We perceive like maybe certain anxiety, certain discomfort, the need for a change, and how progressively through years it becomes manifest. It transforms into changing jobs, changing careers, a relationship that has to end or has to begin, or a different way of being in the world, or us starting a certain spiritual practice, and that becoming more and more real as time progresses. So, in a way, to go through a spiritual emergence is something desirable. We want to go through that. We seek connection, we seek a transcendence of our little egos to connect with something that is larger than ourselves. And this is a movement towards health, in a way, in this society in which we are very much isolated one from each other, and it seeks that we need to find meaning inside of ourselves. Many times we look for connection to something that's greater than us. We connect with something that is not just our individuality, and that can bring a lot of relief and growth. And also ecological and philosophical traditions, they talk about that, how we embark in a journey, and as we continue that journey, things are likely to change. We are likely to learn, to open, to become more at ease with life and with ourselves. And so usually a spiritual emergence does not require any sort of intervention or support. Something that we find the tools to go through it as we go. Something different is the spiritual emergency. A spiritual emergency is when things become too fast and too intense and too quick. All of a sudden, things become unbearable, things become very intense. And then what was an emergence before can become an emergency. And all of a sudden, we are not in control anymore. It doesn't feel so safe anymore. We cannot have the certainty that it actually is something that is for good, something that is helpful. We start doubting, and actually this is maybe a pathological thing going on. And because what happens is the intensity of our internal experiences becomes so high No, we cannot run away from those. We cannot pretend not to see what's happening on the inside. So emotions, thoughts, visions can come. And many times what happens is that there's a difficulty in distinguishing what comes from the inside and what is coming from the out. This morning in the introductory talk, for sure that you've talked about the horizontal and the vertical, right? So in a spiritual emergency, it can become very difficult to make this distinction between horizontal and vertical. So maybe I'm having an experience of death and rebirth, but what I'm experiencing is that I'm really dying. Or maybe I'm having a psychic opening into archetypes or angels or whatever, and I feel that I'm the Messiah. Yeah, that's something that's really happening, and the messages are coming from the President of the United States. I don't know. Yeah, so it's difficult to distinguish what is inner and what is outer. And many times this comes accompanied, especially in some forms of spiritual emergency, particularly the Kundalini awakening, with a lot of physical manifestations. Yeah, with shakings, with tremors, with changes in temperature and internal difficult experiences. There is nothing weird if we're thinking about psychedelic or breathwork experience. So when we are in such experiences in breathwork, that's perfectly normal. Or you're having an ayahuasca experience that the force points and the snake takes you over. I mean, that's another day in the office. There's nothing special about that, really, yeah? But this is something that happens outside this experience. It's something that happens as we live our daily life, yeah? Many times there's this sense of having lost contact with reality, not knowing what's real and what's not real anymore, and the sense of living in some sort of limbo, not really knowing where am I. Is this still the experience? Is this real life? Do we live in a world that is a vision? You know, and that becomes something that's really difficult on a daily basis. Yeah? So many times it implies times of chaos in which we cannot continue with our daily routines. Our daily life is very much impacted, and we need to modify what we do on the outside because we cannot deal with the outside. Yeah, so in a spiritual emergency, and this will have profound impact on our outside life. Implications for work, for relationships, for the way that we present ourselves in the world. Yeah. So it's not just some inner experience that I'm dealing with. It's a major episode that involves all my life, and my inner life, but also my outer. But again, Stan was going to say that such experiences, they do have healing potential if we can support them in an appropriate way. If we allow these experiences to unfold naturally, if we support the natural course of such experiences, if we can find an environment and people that will provide that safety around us, then the experiences can be a sort of healing and growth. Yeah? It can bring us to another level of being, another level of understanding. So then the matter is not so much if these experiences are right or wrong, it's more like, what can we do to support these experiences in the most helpful way? And one of the things that make it very challenging is that, an ayahuasca experience is what, 6 hours long, a night long? But what if the experience was weeks long? Who can support you with that? What sort of context? It's not only that your life is going to be enhanced, like everybody else's life, supporting you needs to stop as well. So you start seeing the complexities of supporting really deep and challenging experiences. And that's why for